Hey, gang, welcome back to the Holocron Chronicles, talking all about Star Wars. This is episode 132. I am your Jedi, I'm your co-Jedi Master of West Michigan, Charlie Garden. I'm joined by the other half of the co-Jedi Council, what have you, of the Greater Grand Rapids area, Peter Stein. Good morning to you. How you doing?
Good morning. Doing all right.
Well, we've got an interesting show for you today. It's going to be a little bigger because we are wrapping up talking about The Last Command, which is the final the comic book adaptation of the final of the first run of the Timothy Zahn novels. So his first trilogy was from the early 1990s. And my first time really digging into it, but this one in particular included a particularly notorious moment that just threw it out the window for me at the end. But we'll get into that. And overall, even Peter had to say when we're in pre-roll that it did not really do justice to the source material adapting. And then we're going to get into talking about something that it is. We changed it. We generally, when we record these episodes, we choose a episode title that's something funny that we say in production, or something funny that I might note in the notes as I'm making my notes. But we're talking about but this time we named it beforehand because we're talking about the first 4 episodes of the brand new MAUL Shadow Lord, which is of course on Disney Plus, which we maybe didn't like so much. So this is going to be, Peter and I always work really hard to make sure that we keep things light and try to be constructive in our criticism, but we might be pushed to limits in this episode. So I thank you for sticking in there with us. And then we did get a final trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is out just over a month from now, and tickets are now on sale. I have ours. We're going to see it Thursday. I always see big releases the Thursday before April, and I do just to avoid the spoiler goblin because it's unavoidable. But yeah, we're going to jump into that. So this might be a little longer show. I mean, we usually keep the show pretty tight, but we might run a little long, but we will see what happens. First and foremost, and of course, then I blathered for 2 minutes here. So again, thanks for sticking in this early. But first and foremost, I'd love to pay homage to the wonderful people over at our Patreon, Secret Friends Unite squad, over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite, where you do get exclusive shows, including Peter and I talking about our beloved Battlestar Galactica, Ron Moore's interpretation, which we are winding down on, and the Bad Movies podcast that April and I talk about. We're actually releasing a new one a few days after this comes out, but it is exclusive to Patreon, and she picked it just this morning, and it is a doozy. And you can listen to that for free for a week just by popping on over there, sign up for free for 7 days. Even you can sign up for free forever and just get updates if you like about stuff that we're publishing. That would be great too. I'd love to see your name over there. You can also stay on board for as little as 50% off for your first month, and then you stick around for as little as $2 a month. So it's just your way to say hello. We'd like your stuff. All of our other shows, our free shows, come out early there. So for example, this is The Biggest Gap. This one comes out on a Sunday on the Patreon, and then it comes out on a Wednesday for the rest of the world. So, be that person that gets that free. Have the inside track over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. We'd love to see you there. So, the great white hope of Star Wars films, the first film since 2019's let's just call a duck, disastrous Rise of Skywalker, a film that is I won't say it's universally divisive, but I rarely talk to anyone who liked it. Yeah. But this is The Mandalorian and Grogu, so this is based on a largely beloved, I would say, television program that really breathed some very fresh life into Star Wars back in 2019. I think this came out just prior to that film. It would have to have come out prior to that film, because that film came out at Christmas time. The Last Skywalker came out in December of 19. So this would have come on summertime, I would think. If I would have done my
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was, yeah.
But yeah, I remember, friends I had at the time and other people in the community and we have covered this extensively, not only on this show, but even before we had the show. My founding partner over at Code 47, our Star Trek podcast, Alex, we love this so much. We made a segment of that show to talk about this show. That's how much we love, because we wanted to talk about it in depth. So it led to a lot of disagreements at the time with my recording partner, because he's like, well, you can't talk about Star Wars in a Star Trek show. Hey, I did, and I'd do it again if I had to. But anyway, people have been, this is the first film that we've had since 2019. It's transitioning. I think the latest school of thought is that this is what the series has become, because there was some talk about having another season of The Mandalorian, and that's kind of dissolved into this. But we did get a final trailer. And we did get tickets on sale. So April and I ran out and got our tickets. We always do Thursday, as I either said this a moment ago or I said it to Peter before we jumped on, just because we like to avoid spoilers. But Peter, what was new in the trailer that you saw?
Not really much. I mean, we got a couple extra shots of Grogu doing some meditation. We got a couple nice looks at the Razor Crest.
And it looked good.
The new one. It's not the same ship, but the new one.
Right.
Outside of that, I don't really remember all that much that really jumped out at me.
A lot of it seemed like it was previous release. We did, of course, also get, and I have a link in the show notes if you want to see all this, but some new character posters, and they're all of Mandalorian and Grogu. Why wouldn't they be? What else would they be? The one they have at the bottom, which just says, "This is the way," and it's got Mando pointing his gun, and Grogu's on his back, but you do see, the walkers off to the side, and you see the Razor Crest off to the other side. It's pretty iconic, him standing on top of treetops and stuff, and so, it's funny because next week, middle of next week, John, who is my college roommate and my best friend, and has been for many, many years, he and I are kind of reinventing the movie challenge that used to be the three of us. Todd was the third person, and now he and I are kind of continuing on our own. And we've had some serious discussion about where this movie will chart within that top 10, because obviously it's a Star Wars film. It's gonna make some serious bucks.
It's gonna do something, yeah.
But I was doing my analysis, and I got to tell you, without obviously betraying what I'm going to talk about, because John and I are going to record a segment of Oops All Thunderdome and publish it, and encourage other people, hey, do the same. Our contest runs between May 1st, which is coming up real quick, and Labor Day, basically. So that's why we make our picks now. And I got to tell you, this is, I don't think this is in my top three, because there's a lot of very stiff competition. We have a Spider-Man movie. We have a Toy Story film, which has always been a nearly $1 billion franchise, if not. Supergirl, which did about, Superman did about 250 last year, I think. So it was healthy. And I think people are maybe putting this in that same-ish boat. I don't know. I have some analysis. I don't want to give it away, but the question is, are people prepared to see Star Wars on the big screen again? Are they jaded after a few years of maybe less than favorable productions, kind of one after another? Boba Fett is not really loved by a lot of people. The Acolyte was a big black eye for a lot of people in the Star Wars world, but of course everybody has their different opinions. How do you, Peter, in your opinion, because we're fairly learned. We talk about the stuff on this podcast network. How do you think this is going to fare? The other real big box office failure, because The Rise of Skywalker, for like it or don't, was not a box office failure. It was successful.
It was not. No, yeah.
But Solo, which came out in 2018, is deemed a failure. Probably largely due to its incredibly high production costs, and we've talked about this before, and we'll talk about it again. I know a future segment we have planned for this show is kind of to talk about Solo and why it didn't work, is that they filmed it twice. They filmed most of a movie. Kathleen Kennedy locked horns with Lord Miller, fired them, and then scrapped their film, brought in Ron Howard, and they filmed it again. So while it did do some box office, if you weigh that, ROI, it ended up being not a success. But to revisit my original question, so I can shut up for a minute, what are your thoughts on how you think this is going to do and why?
Well, I'm not really an expert on why people do things in terms of watching films, so I will just put that caveat out there.
Okay.
But I would say that this one, it kind of depends on what the mood of the fandom is at the moment it comes out. Because I know that at least my theory for Solo particularly, all of the behind the scenes stuff tossed, is that a lot of people didn't go see it because they were mad at Episode 8, and so they didn't go see Solo because that was
The Last Jedi.
It was the only way that they could figure out how to be I'm
We're going
mad.
to speak with our wallets, right? Which
Yeah,
is,
I mean,
for me
that's
as a consumer, and I will tell you this, and I've talked about this to people who know me, and I probably mentioned it on here. I'm a very much a speak with my wallet kind of consumer. If I have a shop
sometimes that's
owner
what you got to do.
that treats me like shit, I will. I'm not going to get on social media and rail against them or whatever it is, but I will not shop there, and I will share my opinion verbally with other people if that shop ever comes up. And this has happened with comic shops right here in our own town, and I will not name any names. People who see me where I shop, they know that I like their shop. If you don't see me, then draw your own conclusions. But yeah. Having grown up in a small business myself, with me, which I talk about all the time with my dad, I'm very much a believer in treating people right when you want their money. It's a metaphor that I think extends to the movies as well. If you want to respect your moviegoers, don't treat them, I would say don't treat them like shit. Don't give them a bad product, and then don't do it in a way that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And don't be just like pointing fingers all the time. And that's kind of what started to happen after 8, and then people got mad and and snowballs from there. But like, that was just my observation at the time. So with Mandalorian and Grogu, the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian for sure were like made wildly popular.
Oh my God. That last episode 8 of season 2 with Luke friggin' Skywalker was the greatest thing we saw since post original trilogy, in my opinion.
It was really, really well done, and it treated like the universe and the characters very well. You had great stuff. Season 3 was not as good. I mean, and that's like, and that's not just me saying that. That's me saying, like, looking around and seeing reactions.
Everyone I've ever spoken to did not really rant rave about season 3.
And which is sad because there's a lot of potential there. And so because of that, I am a little hesitant to say that this will do amazingly. I think it will do well. Like, I don't think it's going to bomb. So we're not going to see a Solo type thing where it's like everyone's mad about something and so they're just not going to do it. I think everyone's going to go give this a chance, and then you're obviously going to have like the people who never watched the show but saw the merch of like Grogu when he was called Baby Yoda, and like, oh look, he's in a movie, I'm going to go see it. So we're going to get some of that.
Yeah, right.
So I think it's going to do fairly well, but I don't think it's going to hit like levels of the main sequence. Like Rogue One also did really, really well, but I don't think it's going to hit Rogue One levels.
Right. And it also beat out. It was also a little higher on the lot of positivity coming out of episode 7, which is called
Force
Awakens, because people generally enjoyed that. It kind of went off a cliff from there.
There were those of us who sometimes were like, I'm not so sure, but we weren't like, oh, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. So
which is The Last Jedi. Oh boy, and again, I've gone in waves over The Last Jedi and The Last God. It's been 9 years since that film came out. From hating it and loving it, hating it and loving it. I will tell you, I kind of based my bracket for the top 10 movie challenge, which again, we'd love to have people participate. I'll probably mention it on our Discord, hey, top 10 domestic, blah, blah, feel free to pre. But I bracket mine off of, because you always try to find a list. Everybody has their opinion, but I try to look at some numbers published by IMDb or Box Office Pro in this case. Yeah. They are saying domestic that The Mandalorian could do around 398. We'll call it 400. And I won't tell you where that drops in my rankings, because that would be spoiling kind of what I'm saying. But I just I'm not 100%. I'm not 100% that I'm digging on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it might do something closer to 3, in which case I might slide it down a little bit. I don't know. I have to take a harder look at this between now and I think Wednesday when John and I record.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just boils down to how Star Wars fans are feeling when this comes out, because we didn't really because we're not getting anything on May 4th, as far as we know.
Just an episode of Darth Maul, which we'll be
the finale
talking about in a moment here. Yeah.
So we're not getting like anything that's like, ooh, wow. Unless there's something sneaky drop. I don't know.
Right.
So we have that. We have all of the uncertainty with like changing leadership and what the directions are, and the last couple series that we've had being kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of uncertainty. I really hope this does well so that like we can, get some more momentum and have people telling some good stories so that we can have more fun in the Star Wars universe. And not necessarily fun, because we don't have to have like, oh, I have happy story. We can have like sad stories like, this one or the Bad Batch, how that kind of resolved.
Right.
So like there's nothing wrong with having like tough stories in the Star Wars universe because they make sense. But I want us to be able to tell stories that like we can enjoy experiencing and see like the meaning and the depth in them. And then also, just get everyone like, I like Star Wars again, instead of just like, this is a place where we go to fight.
So, yeah, right. There's Star Trek right now too. So we'll find out. So again, this movie is out on May 22. As with most huge films, it's really May 21, which is when I'm seeing it. So tickets available at your local establishment, and of course on big online sites like Fandango and what have you. I will drop a link in the show notes that does go to the article that we were talking off of on StarWars.net, which is StarWarsNews.net, which is usually our source for news. All right, let's move it right along. We are wrapping up the last command. This is the issues 4, 5, and 6. This is, of course, a comic adaptation from Dark Horse Comics from 1997, I'm going to say, because the books themselves came out in the early 90s, so this is obviously the late 90s when Dark Horse held the license. And again, Peter and I both read this on Marvel Unlimited. You can likely also find on Kindle/Comixology, which is Amazon. You can find the single issues or probably a trade paperback. But as I am also very, very fond of saying, please visit your local comic shop. I was just talking about small businesses a moment ago, and I obviously make no bones about the fact that they are very important to me personally. And right here in Grand Rapids, we have several great comic shops that I frequent, including Argos, which has been my comic shop since I was 10 years old. Tardy's, Gavin, Indiana. Roger and Crystal own Argos. Gavin, Indiana own Tardy's, which is also here in Southeast GR. And then Don and his family own the Comic Signal up on the north side, so it's a little closer to where you are, Peter. All great folks. And if you're local and you notice the shop I didn't mention, that'll probably tie back to the thing I was talking about earlier. But regardless, those are 3 great shops. Please visit any one of those folks and say, hey, I'm looking to get my hands on The Last Command. Can you help me? And they'll help you. They'll find a way to help you because, again, and then you're supporting a small business, especially with Free Comic Book Day coming up, which is also right around May the 4th, May 2nd, actually, which you and I will be missing because we have our pickleball tournament that day.
No.
Which I know my difference between pickleball and comics. It's a tough one, but regardless, I'll end up choosing pickleball because it's my tournament. But at any rate, all right. Well, let's get into this. I have my notes, which I somehow just misplaced. Where the hell did my notes go? Oh, there they are. All right, issue 4. Peter, talk to me about what's getting rolling in issue 4.
All right. So issue 4, let's see, picks up where we left off from the last one, which was Luke and Mara and Han and everybody headed off to Wayland.
A good place to buy cows.
Yes, to go look for the Emperor's Storehouse.
Right. That's Mount Tantus, right?
That is Mount Tantus, which is why when we were talking about the Bad Batch, I was like, oh my goodness, it's Mount Tantus. Wow. Because I knew what it was. So we get that. We also have some follow-up to the smuggler story where if you remember, like Niles Ferrier, cigar munching numbnut,
right.
Decides to get the local Imperial garrison to attack, and Thrawn's pissed at him. So we begin with Thrawn talking to another smuggler and be like, this wasn't me. I didn't send my people to attack you.
Thrawn being pissed because he's always so mellow. There's kind of no peaks and valleys with him. He doesn't I'm not really mad or I'm not really happy about anything. I'm just like, well, blah, 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 this thing and that thing, so on and so forth. It's like he's not talking to the new smuggler guy who I said, this might be a reference that goes right over your head because it was pretty close to the time you were born, but the new guy looks like a photo negative of Johnny Bravo. Have you ever heard of that cartoon?
Yeah.
This was who was Johnny Bravo was just a photo negative of Elvis who had yellow hair. So this was Johnny Bravo, the smuggler guy.
Yeah, so Thrawn eventually is like, it wasn't me. Go do your thing. I don't want to mess with you. I probably want to do business with you later. So he leaves.
It's good for business.
Then obviously we get Han, Luke, Mara, and Lando landing on Wayland, and basically we just get them landing. And then the next bit is a bit that just completely gets gutted.
You should see Peter. He's doing the Home Alone face right now, or he's doing the serious face palm.
Yeah. So the next bit in the comic book is because previously we had Thrawn like lay siege to Coruscant. He's got cloaked asteroids, and they have the shields up. And I think Card shows up and tries to ask them something. No, that's a little later. But
okay.
So we got this thing where they're trying to figure out how Thrawn is getting information out, because they know that it's this thing called Delta Source, like this agent or what have you, that's giving Thrawn information. And in the book, there's this whole back and forth with Ghent and Winter and Leia, and they're trying to figure it out, and they're trying to like, is it Phalia? Is it these other guy? Is it the droids? Like, there's a lot of like sleuthing going on, which we don't get in the book. And then it does show you the shot where Leia kind of figures it out. But did you figure out when you were reading it what Delta Source is?
No.
Exactly. So
I feel like that was one I had to go back for, and I was like, yeah, I did write Delta Source. Where's Chuck Norris, R.I.P.
Yeah,
because Delta,
Delta
but
Source.
I'm like, yeah, you're right. That was, and yeah, it's kind of a start of a lot of stuff within this.
Yeah,
that is kind of like you got too many threads, and none of them are kind of coming together, and new characters, and
And Delta Source is one of those things in the books. It's actually like it's this through line through the whole series. You're just like, what is this? And then spoilers, and because they didn't explain it, because the final shot is like Leia in the lobby next to a droid, and then there's trees. So there's this visual element of these trees that are planted in the lobby of the Senate, basically.
Okay.
Because they haven't really figured, this is before the prequels, so like how the Senate is laid out isn't really clear, so they just kind of do what they do.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's these really nice looking trees that, have like these rippling patterns, and they're really interesting, and they make note of it multiple times in the book. You find out through Ghent doing like his sensor net and all of this stuff that they skipped, that what Delta Source is a transmitter buried under the root system of this tree. It's not multiple trees. It's like one that all go down to a central root knot, and then they absorb sound waves, and those ripples that we're seeing visually on it are electromagnetic transmissions down to this very surreptitious translator buried underneath the Senate. And this was something that Palpatine set up so that he could spy on the senators. That's this whole story bit that's just kind of ejected into space. And so like I was reading this, and I'm like, visually it shows you the tree reacting, and you see Leia's kind of sitting there, you see the tree do its thing, and then she's like, I found Delta Source. Dudes, you haven't told us how she figured this out. Like in the book, we get this whole long explanation of how you narrowed it down to figure out that Delta Source was the trees, which is amazingly brilliant as a spy method by Palpatine, and then Thrawn just reuses it.
Sure.
But like the comic book doesn't tell you what the hell this thing is. And
I don't know what the hell. I don't even. I don't know anything about it in talking. I don't think I ever picked that up at all.
No, because they never say it, and they never bring it up again.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not missing out on that. So, yeah, I mean, and again, kind of the through line between these three issues, and I don't know how I would compare it to what we talked about last time, but we had an absolute moment of what I described to you as the Star Trek Voyager syndrome, which, of course, I love that show as well. Yeah. But in a lot of the episodes, they were, you have a 44-minute episode that's, in a 60-minute style out with commercials, where in the last 5 to 7 minutes of program time, they're solving whatever jam they're in with, like, do this thing or that thing. And I absolutely felt like going through this. I mean, you just pointed out something to me that you're right, because it was an offhanded remark. I was like, oh, that's nice. Is that going to come back in another book and then we'll get a whole thing about it or whatever? But it was a whole thing in this book and we don't know anything about it. Oh, that's a lot worse.
Yeah.
That's a lot worse. And yeah, it's teeing us up to the title of the this episode, which we'll revisit again, which is, Peter and I, we hate to be down on stuff because there's too much of that in this world. We just talked about it with Star Wars. It's definitely special. It's really raging in Star Trek right now. I hate to say it. And then in other fandoms as well. Marvel is trudging up quite a hill right now and betting all their chips on Doomsday, which with CinemaCon that just happened, sounds very exciting with all the stuff we heard about what that's going to look like. Mm-hmm. But we always try to keep it positive, and we always try to talk about the good. Yeah. And I was struggling to find the good, and what you just told me kind of knocks me down a couple of pegs as well. Because
I mean, I remember that when we were talking about Heir to the Empire, the comic adaptation, there was a lot of stuff that got missed there, and we weren't keen on the art style. So it's like, it kind of goes back and forth. And again, adaptations always have something where they fail somewhere. It's just the way of things. And some books, some stories just don't translate well to other media. They just don't.
Right.
Classic example that's not Star Wars at all is Ready Player One. You can't do the book in a film.
Yeah.
Like not well at all. No,
they sure tried.
The film the film is completely different. It has the same beats in it, and it does tell a good story. But the book is completely different.
I think I've heard that as well. And of course, I'm famously a terrible reader. I mean, you and I were both reading a book together for an interview we did, and I still am stalled. Yeah.
Well, Ready Player One,
gone back to it. You know what I mean?
The audiobook of Ready Player One is read by Will Wheaton, so I think you might enjoy that.
Will Wheaton, yes. Absolutely. But and again, we may be kind of blurring into a summary here, just because I know.
Well, I haven't touched issue 2 yet. Yeah. That's just issue 1.
Yeah. But I mean, even looking through some of the stuff, it does seem like there's a lot of time kind of chewed up with.
There's some time jumps, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of time chewed up with the smugglers, because it's in this issue they kind of figure out that they're getting played by Thrawn, and they're kind of the last horse. You kind of get the slow golf clap for them, because like, dude, I mean, anybody could see.
Yeah, this. It does feel like these 3 issues focus a lot on Talon Card and the smugglers, which they are important to the story,
right?
But they're not as important to the story as they're being made out to be here.
Right. So. I mean, they do. There's a moment in this where they get together because the chubby cigar guy comes back, and the squiggly Wolfman guy is back as well.
Oh, yeah, that's the next issue. Yeah.
No, this is still in 4, I think, or at least he comes back. That's why I have my notes. Whatever it is. And then he tries to escape, and they fire cannon and blow him up. And then the smugglers are like, well, they have the kind of the
that is the end of this issue.
Yeah, we should team up. I noted Han and gang down there on Wayland, the good place to buy cows, go through this whole like very much like, hey, let's recreate the whole sequence from Endor, which in a lot of ways it makes sense because it's familiar, and you're trying to go with some familiar elements. And I never understood this. It looks like they're like miserably hot, but he's wearing a trench coat and his vest and a long sleeve t-shirt, and then he's got this Rambo bandana, which I just thought, did that come from the book? Because that's super like, no. And he's got the scruffle, which Han never had a day that he missed shaving in the original trilogy, but Han Solo always had a scruffly beard, or basically he shaved once a week. So not really a beard, but a little bit more than scruffle. But I feel like they're trying to jam the two of them together, because Indy was always wearing that leather jacket, almost always. So I feel like there was a lot of like visually making Han into Indiana Jones here, which is not a bad thing. I adore both characters, but I thought, I wondered if that actually came from the book, or the artist said, "Hey,
I don't recall.
I really liked Indiana Jones better than Star Wars, so I'm gonna."
Yeah, I don't recall it being in the book.
Yeah, so. that does a bit of an artistic touch. We see Luke and Mara. They're starting to have some chats. They're talking about the Force,
and Luke kind of implies that she should learn how to use the Force a little bit.
Right.
So.
She's still having her Vietnam flashbacks about kill Luke Skywalker, like the evil, the Krusty the Clown doll. I don't like you, Homer Simpson, and I'm going to kill you.
Yes.
Wow, we do get wrapping up issue 4. We do get a volley of Star Wars names for things.
Yes.
A fellow pilot, Wedge's talking to's name is Pash Kraken. That one came out of the name generator. And then we get a lot of Star Wars words within that same briefing, like Tangreen. Isn't that the planet they get to?
That's the planet.
And then I'm going to take a stab at this. Ubiquitorate base and Bilbringry.
So the ubiquitorate base and Bilbringy.
Okay, there we go. I was a little closer on the last one. So yeah, they're really, and this was even before I'm sure there was an internet name generator.
Yeah,
for Star Wars things.
The ubiquitorate bases are kind of they're not writing wise and world building wise. They're kind of the precursors to what ends up being the ISB and how it's used most of the time. So
very good. Yeah, and this whole series really does make you think that the Empire is kind of going on without a clip, because the obviously the end of Return of the Jedi, I thought, oh my God, the Empire is defeated, but we know in what became canon subsequently that the Empire kind of limped on in regular force for about a year, and then they finally surrendered, but then they still survived the splinter factions, and that's why we have the Mandalorian, blah blah blah. All right, so then we're into
issue 5.
Yes, please. Pardon my yawn. Yeah, go ahead. All right, issue 5. What do we got going?
All right, so issue 5, we have Thrawn getting annoyed with more lack of information, which is a good way to do. That's done better in the book, but it's like you're starting to show that like Thrawn works the best when he has information that he can pull from, so he can make his plans. He doesn't doing things blind is not where he's the strongest. We get more of the smugglers. They have like a plan where they're going to throw wrenches in the Empire's plan. Then we get more planning from the New Republic, where they're trying to figure out, and they finally figure out, even though I think in the books we had this figured out a little bit earlier, but they figure out that the turbo lasers through the planetary shields isn't a real thing. It's a Star Destroyer has a cloaked ship inside the planetary shield, so they shoot, it hits the shield, but the other ship on the inside fires almost at the same time, and so then
it's an illusion.
Yes, Thrawn is good at scaring people. And we finally have like Philea actually kind of working with everybody instead of being just Captain Douchebag.
Right.
So go back to Wayland. We get introduced to the locals, which this was, if I'm remembering correctly, these locals were Kabouth was here before anyway, so these locals were already under his influence, and so they're kind of influenced by him. But then when he was gone, they were able to kind of break free, and now they aren't his biggest fans, but they also don't like the Empire. So there's kind of this like working with the Ewoks sort of thing that they do, where they get help to go to get to Mount Tantus. We find out that there's also a Nogri commando squad that's kind of tailing them to protect Luke.
Yes. I did write they kind of had an Ewok vibe. And again, this being like subbing this planet in for it, I just felt like they were really drawn from familiar elements, which I think is especially visually really necessary. So I totally picked up on that.
And a lot of that is from the book. So it's
okay. Well, good.
There's some tie-ins there. We get more of Luke telling Mara, we need to make sure that you learn the Force. We do get what I thought was in the books, and I think that they do it pretty well here. Hilariously, Kabouth finds the Emperor's personal hologram transmitter, which has his personal settings still saved, so it's just a giant head. So I thought that was pretty great. Yeah, it's like, because it's like Kabouth is calling. Put him on. I see you found the Emperor's personal settings.
Oh my God!
It was pretty funny because Kabouth is mad because he was trying to control the commander of the base, but he tried to control him too much that he basically burned his mind away. So then when they entered the Salamiri bubble, he died because there was nothing left in his head to keep him alive. Which, if you try to assert too much control over somebody, that's what happens. So that was fun. We've got more Cards people telling Wedge, here's some crap that you need to deal with, and we're going to try to pull this big thing over at Bill Bringing, and you need to help. Then we go back to Coruscant, where you see Jason and Jaina, little babies on Coruscant.
Right.
And you have this giant tapestry.
I had a note about that. It's Padme.
It sure looks like Padme, yeah.
How did she, that's so weird, because obviously this was before the prequels.
Yep. I think it's supposed to be like an idea of Leia's mother. I wonder, or it's Leia herself. I'm not 100% clear, but I think it's supposed to be her mom.
And there was definitely great casting.
It looks a lot like Natalie Portman, which I thought was quite cool.
Impressive. Yeah. We do have a blurb. It was right after this. So Leia is talking to Craven, the smuggler guy. And there's a lot of and this reminds me of a lot of Marvel comics. I think John Byrne in particular is a favorite creator of mine, would do these it's a page of just talking, which I think works fine in a book, but in a comic where you really need to have some little bit more accelerated pacing, particularly because, in issue 6, which we're almost to, we really come up short. That maybe, they could have find a way to maybe trim this down a little bit. So they do use an opportunity because Leia needs to go to Wayland. They use an opportunity.
She has a bad feeling in the Force, so she needs to go help Luke.
And she's tied into the Force. And they do use an opportunity to extort a bunch of money out of our least favorite dickface Botham Senator, what's his name?
Counselor Boris Falea. Yep.
Somebody ought to fillet him with the lightsaber. Hey-o! I said, so the Han and company do get to Mount Tantus, which I put 7 extra S's in it because I think it sounds bad. That sounds badass. I said, I love the last panel with the dark, shadowy big bad, has a Cheshire grin and sparkly hands.
Yeah, that was pretty well done.
That's going to be good. And then we're into issue 6, unless you have any other brilliant thoughts about issue 5.
That's kind of the end of issue 5.
All right. Yeah, so I did that. My first note on issue 6 was a lot of moving pieces. I'm hopeful to not have a Star Trek Voyager last 5 minutes wrap up.
Well, yeah.
And that's kind of where we go. I thought it was kind of cute. So it's the beginning of of issue 6, and I'll kick it back to you. But my other first note was, we got all the New Republic forces coming in. I do kind of love it how all the X-Wings are still dirty and shitty looking like they were in the Rebellion era, that they haven't spent any time cleaning them up. It reminded me of my brother's first car, which was an 81 Chevette, which is a really shitty car from the late 70s. If you've ever seen one. Yeah, I remember he had this car for 2 weeks. I rode him around in it. I think the floor fell out of the passenger side where I was sitting. The heat in it was basically like a flamethrower, and at the end he sold it for $10 in scrap. The guy came to the house and paid him in singles. I will never forget. 1992.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Paying in singles. Right. Man.
Issue 6. Where are we going?
Yeah, so issue 6 we get the New Republic forces preparing to go for the Imperial shipyards at Bill Bringy. They've been kind of dropping information. Thrawn is going to be headed there too. So that's where the big final showdown is going to be, is at the Bill Bringy shipyards. Yes.
There you go. You're welcome.
We go then back to Wayland, where they start to sneak in through the ventilation shaft, as you do.
One does.
Luke cuts it open with his lightsaber, and they all sneak in. Somehow, around the same time, Leia and Card arrive, and then they pull out the Vornskers and start going to look for people. So this is a bit that I think does not get touched on at all after this, is that they go fight the Imperial forces in front of Tantus.
Right. Yeah, it gets referred back to 3 or 4 times. Oh, there's a frontal assault happening.
Yeah, but we don't actually see it. So,
and look, there's also a frontal assault happening. All right.
Yeah, we got to pull the forces out of the facility, because otherwise they're all going to die inside. Okay, cool. But then you don't see anything.
Right, exactly.
We get some more.
Yeah.
We get a little bit of Luke and everybody wandering in, and then it's okay, Han, you guys need to find how to blow this thing up. We're going to go deal with Kabouth. Oh, look, here's all the Sparty cloning cylinders, which, is a giant tube with more tubes, very, very similar to how they get shown in Camino.
A lot of tubes
in episode 2, which is
little
cool.
Inspiration. Yeah, definitely.
then we get the Imperial forces show up at Bilbringi. Oh no, final battle starting. And then we get a very wide panel shot of Luke and Mara meeting up with Joruus C'baoth, where he's just like,
Yes.
I'm going to kill you all. And he uses the Force because somehow he's gotten the Insalamiri out of this area. So he zaps Mara to take her out of the fight.
Right.
Luke still has a lightsaber, so he's fine. And then C'baoth unveils his evil master plan that he did mention in, I think, the issue 4, where he tells the commander, I need you to clone sample whatever, 1138. And then
1138.
And then so you see a hooded figure come out, and he ignites a very familiar looking blue lightsaber. And then you see the hood, and it is Luke Skywalker.
Oh, we are. This is where we had a 404 massive blue screen of death failure for me.
Yeah.
Now I've heard about Luke for years and years, and I know there was recently a figure set produced of this in the Black Series, which I don't collect the Black Series anymore. I kind of tapped out, and a lot of them I packed away because my vaulted figure collection just kind of grew in another direction.
Yep.
But they could have done a lot of things. This would not be something that I would say would be on my bingo card. So it's a clone of Luke from the material from his severed hand,
correct,
from the Empire, from Cloud City, and the legacy lightsaber, which then obviously in regular continuity somehow ends up in Maz Kanata's possession. I would say mysteriously, but I'm sure it's been detailed in a book or a comic by now, which is considered canonical. And
somehow
you can go look it up.
Was found.
Somehow the lightsaber was found. And so now we're dealing with Luke fighting with the clone. They do. So it's a big fight. Which you would expect. And Mara gets in the mix and blah, blah, blah. And it's throughout the end. And obviously, the obvious part is that, evil will triumph over good, or good will triumph over evil because good is dumb. I don't know, whatever it is. But in the end of it, I like this part. Mara, plagued by the "you must kill Luke Skywalker" voice in her head for the entirety of this whole series, all 3 books, she does finally get to kill Luke Skywalker. You just had to throw an extra U in there. She is the one that finally slays Luke Skywalker, or just Luke. And then she kills Gandalf as well.
Yes.
And then did they blow the base up? Now I don't have a note on that, or do they just?
They don't blow the base. They do blow some stuff up, but they don't destroy the entire thing.
Yes,
I think they destroyed the Sparty cloning cylinder, so they can't be used again. But they
is it? Are you saying Sparty like Spartans like?
That's not originally what it was. It's 2 A's, so Sparty is how you often will hear it said.
Sparty is fine.
Sparty.
Yes.
So the conceit that is explained a little bit in the book, it's not explained here, is that there is, in some of the cloning procedures, if you're cloning a person and you want that to be a copy of that person, not like a new person like Rex or Cody or what have you. Right. It's like, I want another Luke Skywalker. That there is some sort of error in like cognitive with the name, and so there's like a vowel that gets added. So that's why you have, for instance, C'baoth is Joruus C'baoth with 2 U's, whereas the original person is Joruus C'baoth with 1 U, and that actually is a plot point that comes up earlier in the books.
So far inside baseball.
Yeah,
you're in the
yeah, but
dugout.
But I'm just saying that's why Luke has two U's, is because of an error in the cloning process. But
there was an error, all right.
There was lots of errors, but to your point of like why they had Mara do it, it's why this book is named what it is, because it is the Emperor's last command that is fulfilled.
Right. That I liked. We so moving on from that, everybody goes back to, I keep calling it the big C in my notes because I don't want to misspell Coruscant over and over again.
Yeah.
Why does Mara say Thrawn is dead? Obviously he bugs out at the end of it, right? Or does he die? Did he die?
Thrawn is killed at the end of this. So this is again more details that are not really dealt with in the comic book.
Yeah.
So
that seemed missing.
So it's not done like they kind of get it, but they don't do it well. So you had this really brief conversation at the beginning of this issue where one of the Nogri says something like, yeah, we're trying to get rid of the Empire because we didn't like being slaves and having people lie to us. And so we're going to throw off our chains. Okay, throw away comment, you think. It wasn't. And there was a lot more going on. And now this betrayal does come out of quote unquote nowhere in the book as well. But it's not like it's supposed to be a surprise. It's not like Deus Ex Machina sort of thing, where Thrawn's bodyguard, Rook, beats Captain Pelion up because he gets like a private message from Onager or something saying like, okay, from a commando squad, like, okay, we took out the cloning, the Empire is done, the Nogri can be free now, end this. And so then Rook beats up Pelion doesn't die, and then charges across the room and stabs Thrawn right through the chest with his big ass assassin's knife, stabs him through the chest, and then tries to escape and gets blown away by the stormtroopers.
Happens all the time.
But then Thrawn, his final reaction, and they do get his line in the book, but it's not delivered in the best context, where Thrawn says, but it was so artistically done with respecting how the Nogri went about ending him, like the poetic justice and all of that. So you get this last moment of Thrawn, like not just being a conniving evil genius, but being like someone who can understand other people's tactics and understand where like that sort of thing, and be like, you know what, you got me. That was chef's kiss. That was really well done. And then he dies.
You got me, bro.
So that's the second to last page is Thrawn just getting stabbed, and you see Pelion go like, oh shit, we need to retreat, and that's it. That's not exactly how it ends in the book. Very similar, but not exactly.
Yeah,
and then
they definitely.
And then the last panel is Luke and Mara on Coruscant. That's right. That's not where this conversation happens. In the book, there's this whole long thing that happens between Mara and Card and Leia and Luke and Han outside of Mount Tantus, where they're having these kinds of conversations of like, where are we going to go next? What are we going to do? What happened to the Empire? All of that, and where they get the news that Thrawn is dead and all of that. So this is like a very, very single page cleanup really, really quickly, where you get a lot of context and a lot of like Mara finally processing what happened and Luke being like, okay, well, you finished the last command of the Emperor. You're finally free of him now. What do you want to do? You get a tiny I'm
going to Disney World.
Yeah. You get a tiny bit of that here, but not much. And so it was like, yeah.
Yeah. So she does get, so in this, they're back on the big sea, and I thought they were back on Coruscant. Looked like they were.
In the comic book they are, yeah.
Okay, very good. And she's like, blah, blah, I'll go with you and this and that. And he gives her the legacy saber. Yep. I said it in a moment that's corny enough to have I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship dropped in there. I was not impressed.
I mean, he does give her the lightsaber in the book, but it's not nearly as cheesy.
Yeah, that was bad. So, so to wrap this up, and I guess I was rating, because I feel like I gave a higher rating to the first 3 issues.
Yeah, we did.
But for me, this was like a 6 out of 10. I thought it was really draggy. I thought the stuff with the role of the smugglers could have been toned down, just because they just had 22 pages over 3 issues, so that's 66 pages to play with, or whatever it is. And there was way too much cramming to make it all work in the end. The bit with the Luke that that wasn't their fault. Obviously they had to do that, came from the source material. Kind of points for the fight scene closer to the end. Yeah. Because I thought it was pretty well done, but they could have tightened this up a lot. Obviously, as you said, there was things they had to cut because they only had so much contextually that they could have done. So without an extra issue, and I don't know that they could have carried this for another issue, because I know there was enough that would have been, just based on what you described, kind of visually appealing to create something new over it. But they absolutely could have done better. I think
part of it with The Last Command is that there's basically just the 2 battles, and a lot of the rest of it is like a lot of it is the tactically figuring everything out. So there's not a lot of like visual interesting stuff going on. Well, it's not filler. It's not filler, but it's a lot of talking. It's very important plot wise, but visually, if you're putting it in a visual medium, it's not terribly interesting.
Gotcha. So, all right. So that leaves us talking about comics for a little bit. We'll get back to it. I think the Mara Jade series is one that you referred to me that we're going to do. That's going to be the next.
That was one of my first Star Wars comic books, and I have a very special place in my heart for it. It's is it great? I don't know, but I like it.
Right. That's okay. No, I've got a ton of those myself when it comes to on the Marvel side, and even really on the Marvel Star Wars side. But all right, but we're going to jump into our first new content in a minute. When was the last time we had something new? I'm drawing a blank.
I think it was Visions.
Yeah, there we go. Visions.
Back last year.
And I got to say, we'll get into it, but this did not blow either one of us away. But we'll get into it. We're talking about the new over on Disney Plus, Star Wars MAUL Shadow Lord, which of course we've been talking about for a bit. This is of course created by Mr. Filoni for Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. Oh, this the introduction is really pretty worthless, but part of Star Wars taking place after the Clone Wars and following Sith and Lord Maul during the reign of the Galactic Empire. That doesn't really provide any context.
No. It takes place like 3 years. It takes place after the Bad Batch, from what we can tell.
Yeah.
Not its finale, but like after the Bad Batch.
Right. Okay.
Because Maul has clearly been in hiding for a hot minute.
Yeah. So we'll call it 5 to 7-ish years after episode 3, let's say.
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking. Yeah. So not quite to Solo's time frame, which was,
if only because like the stormtroopers that we're kind of getting an inkling of are wearing stormtrooper armor and spoilers, I suppose, but like we see an ISD show up. So it's not after episode 3.
Right. So. All right. So question for you. I've got summaries for each issue. Do we want to run, because this is all, obviously very spoilery. Do we want to just read through these and then jump in some comments as we go?
I think,
or do we
want to go
one by one?
I think we read, let's do each episode, read the description, and then kind of
very good.
Do that.
So again, this is going to be a little bit of a longer ride, but all right. Episode 1 is The Dark Revenge. Stuart Lee, Saul Ruiz, and Nathaniel Villanueva handling the writing, directed by Matt Whoa, what is that last name?
Michnovitz.
Help me. There we go, Michnovitz. After the rise of the Galactic Empire, former Sith Lord Maul seeks revenge against members of the Shadow Collective, a group of criminals he united with during the Clone Wars who betrayed him. That was his final arc in Season 7. On the planet Janix, very generic. They should call it Genera-X. Ooh, look at that.
Generics.
Generics. Maul's followers rob a bank owned by crime lord Nicodemus, like
the biblical character. Almost seems like it. Yeah.
Nicodemus. Janix Technical Defense Force (TDF) Captain Brander Lawson. Brander, that's a Star Wars name. Investigates with his droid partner Two Boots. Clearly the most interesting character in this, and voiced by Richard Ayoade, who was Moss in the IT. Crowd, the absolute one of the best British sitcoms I've ever seen.
Oh, it's fantastic.
For my money. They discover Maul's involvement. Lawson chooses not to report this to the Empire, hoping to avoid Imperial interference on generics. Fugitive Jedi Devin Izara, voiced by the incomparable Dennis Haysbert. That's where Allstate stands.
Nope, wrong character. Wrong character. You're talking about that. That's the Padawan.
Oh, okay.
Devin is the Padawan.
I take it back. Yeah. I've gotten ahead of myself. Now, the Padawan is actually voiced by the daughter of, and you actually get the mother in question, of actress Pamela Adlon, who was absolutely terrific in not only Californication, which is a show that I love on Showtime from the mid-aughts, but actually had a role in, Peter, you'll like this, the mother character, the mother actress, had a role in an episode of TNG. And Who Watches the Watcher? She was one of those Mintonkins. She was the daughter. Isn't that nuts? When she was the age of the daughter character here. All right, that's your Star Trek minute. You didn't bargain for listening to this show. So anyway, that's she's arrested for shoplifting, and her master, who is Dennis Haysbert, Daki, tells her to cooperate with the TDF. I used to work for a company called TDS, so then of course there's the TPS report. So it's too many acronyms to start with D. To avoid drawing attention, Demas meets with rival crime lord Ludi Vario and blames him for the robbery. Vario attempts to kill Demas and flees, pursued by Maul's followers, who a lot of them are just what's the name of Maul's race again?
dang it. It just left my head. It was just in my head, and once you asked, it went.
It was because they were all tied in with, remember, the Zabrak and the because I also thought of the Night Sisters because they were
yep.
They're kind of part and parcel of the same. Lawson saves Vario and arrests him. MAUL and his followers attack the TDF precinct and defeat officers. Get Vario, who offers to help MAUL kill Pike Syndicate. There's just so many names. Pike Syndicate leader Marg Krim. It's almost like Marge, but he's more of a masculine character. In exchange for being spared, MAUL also frees Devon, believing her to be a potential apprentice that he's had visions of and for. Okay. You know what I almost think? Depending on how long we go with this, that we could break this up and just do 2 episodes.
That's fine.
And then space this out. Maybe we just do 2 and we kind of reconfigure. We're just going to cover the first 2. We'll take it from there.
Yeah.
All right. New planet that really could have just been Coruscant.
It took me a hot minute to figure out that it wasn't Coruscant.
Right.
I don't know if I missed the title or a line of dialogue, but it took me a couple scenes to be like, wait, this is not Coruscant. Because like the uniforms and the droids and everything were very, very similar to what we see on Coruscant. So it was just like trying to take a hot second to figure that out.
Right.
This episode doesn't have a whole lot going on. I mean, it's just a setup episode. So like, here's our characters. Here's what they do. So we get like Lawson and Two Boots. Okay, they're interesting. You know, I would like to see more of them in an interesting way, which I can't say exactly what happens in the following episodes, but
and they flesh it out a little bit. And I need to click and find, because the guy who's voicing Lawson is very familiar, and I know who I think it is.
Yeah.
Let me see here. So you keep talking and I'll look it up. I really need to know.
So we get, the classic thing that we've been doing with a lot of different shows where it's like, oh, look, we have another Jedi group who didn't die in Order 66, which, plenty did. But it's I know that a bunch of people online and around are kind of getting frustrated with how many we keep seeing. And I get that.
I had the exact same notes. I was definitely frustrated by the fact that,
and for me, it's also just one of those things where like, where we have like, we actually have a Master Padawan combo that's surviving and they're living as beggars. It's like it feels like there should be a better way for them to survive, because like the Jedi do have friends around in the Outer Rim. So what have you, like it's just one of those things, like it works, but because of how often we see it, there is a little bit of suspension of disbelief that has to happen here.
Right.
And then the fact that like she's been a Padawan for how long, and now like just a little bit of time gets her to jump. And there's a reason they're doing this, where it's like, and now she's going to steal and all of this. And so she's clearly leaning a little bit towards the dark side. We know why that is, because they're setting that up story-wise. Now, I think I said when we first saw this that I think that they're doing this particular character because Devon is a Twi'lek. They're doing this to evoke Darth Talon, who was the original, now no longer, but original canon Sith Lord, post Return of the Jedi, who potentially was going to be like an apprentice of Darth Maul and then be like the big bad, blah blah sequel.
So the actor for Lawson is Wagner Moura, who was or Moura, if you prefer. He's from Brazil, and he was in an exceptional film, if you've not seen it, from 2024 called Civil War, which was really good and terrifying, because it kind of makes you think about a lot of stuff going on in our country right now. But even if it wasn't, and also I'm not going to say Julia Stiles, but who played Mary Jane in the Tobey movies, the Tobey Spider-Man movies? I always forget. Kristen Dunst, was the female lead in that. That's exceptional. And take all the politics out of it, it's just a terrifying look at what a civil war could look like in this country in modern parlance. But he was exceptional in that he played a journalist. Of a group of journalists that was trying to get to the Capitol because, I'm not going to spoil it. You see that movie. I loved Maul's intro. I feel like I really need my my own theme music. Anytime I walk into something, you hear the Charlie music, dun dun. Oh wait, no, that's his. I originally dubbed the episode by this name, Streetcar, with an exclamation point, because Dennis Haysbert says you can always depend on the kindness of strangers, which from the Simpsons episode where they turned a streetcar named Desire into a musical, where Marge was doing community theater.
Oh no.
But Lawson really gave me kind of a Tony Stark vibe. Maybe it's the mustache, but he's, yeah. And we find out in a later episode, and I think it's beyond the 2 episodes we're going to talk about here.
He's mentioned in the second episode.
Yeah, that he has a connection to the Empire, because the Empire is not present on this world. It's kind of like,
I think it's episode
about Andor.
I think it's episode 3 where we hear that his wife is an Imperial officer,
right.
Which, again, I know that I said this during Andor, and I know I've said it in a bunch of other things. I want to see characters that believe in what they think the Empire stands for and are not evil people, because that's how that would be realistically how the Empire would survive.
Right.
And so we got kind of there in Andor, kind of, but not really. And then, it's something that we, storytelling wise, we shy away from, and I understand to a point why, but it's just not realistic.
Right. Because like all bad is all bad all the time.
Well, it's just one of those things of like, minor soapbox, I guess. But the thing that I have an issue with is like, when we start to tell more nuanced stories, like in the movies, it's fine with the Empire just being evil because that's the function in the story. That's fine.
Right.
It's a myth at that point, right? A fairy tale. That's how they function. But when we're starting to tell these more nuanced stories and tell like individuals' relations with how they work in the Empire, then you need to get a little bit more creative. And then if you're going to do that kind of world building, then you have to explain how it works. Because it's not just like, well, everybody who's on this side is just immediately all, the Emperor. That's not the case. You have like TK421 who like he joined because, it was the best way off of a shit situation at home. And so now he's just doing his job, and now he gets shot by Han, and oh, well, that sucks.
Right. And it's probably like a lot of people who join up. Oh, I'm fresh out of high school and I want to get out of my crappy small town.
And like Timothy Zahn has
and then
a couple books about that, and it's just
bunch of teenagers running around blowing up everything. So, like they say in Clerks.
So it's just I think that it would be good to kind of get that nuance. Like they're trying to do that with MAUL and like the criminals, but it's like if you're going to do that with these kinds of people, then if you want to be realistic with how the Empire could stay in charge, because everyone's like, oh, well, it's just fear and oppression. Well, where do they get the soldiers? They're not clones. Where do they get the officers? They're not clones. Where do they get all this stuff? So you have to have people who buy into the propaganda of the Empire and truly believe it. Because you almost had that with what's his face in Rebels with oh man, he switches sides, and that's what we often have.
The officer guy,
I can see his face.
Callus?
Callus,
Agent Callus?
Yeah, Callus. So like Callus changes sides. Versio in Battlefront 2 changes sides.
Yeah,
because it's like, oh well, we suddenly see that the Empire is bad, and I suddenly I can't be part of this anymore. Rather than like, and I know I beat this bush too many times, but like rather than a character like Pelion in the Thrawn novels, who's like he believes
hangs in there.
Well, he believes in what he thinks the Empire stands for, and then tries to rebuild it from within, rather than just like, well, I'm out. And I think that's a somewhat more realistic take on people, someone who's like really embedded into a system that they believe in. And so I hope that that's kind of what we get if we do get her character to show up. I don't know if we are, but if we do get her, I want them to do something more like that.
Okay, cool. I wrote, is Lawson, do you think he's named for Wedge Antilles actor Dennis Lawson?
I think he probably is.
I like that. Love the jailbreaks. I thought that was in MAUL's intro again, really slaps. He's doing some good stuff. Almost the entire police force are droids except for Lawson. And then later we end up seeing his boss, who's a woman. And I thought it's a shitty job market. No wonder everybody's a criminal.
And Matt Lanter, he's in there, and his model looks suspiciously similar to Anakin.
Oh my gosh.
It's definitely Matt Lanter's face.
Yeah.
Because he did appear in Mando. So like we've seen him. It's definitely him, but it's just I just found it really funny how there's things that they have his character do animation wise. It's like you pulled the models that you did for Anakin in Clone Wars.
Right. Well, and we're going to get in a little bit of this about our wrap up of this. And again, we made the decision on the fly. We're just going to cover the first couple of episodes because it seems like there's a lot more to talk about than I thought. But more positives. Love the speeder chase sequence. The music was kind of very evocative at the beginning of Attack of the Clones. Thought that was good.
Yep, that was one.
But I was not impressed by Vario, the one boss. Is awesome. He's like a head on a jar from Futurama, but he's got this big, looks like the Thing or, some big robot, like big robot from any of sci-fi. I'm like, I need one of those because, man, my hips hurt.
Yeah, because he's a similar alien to Rats Terrell from episode 1.
Rats Terrell.
The pod racer. Yeah.
Right, absolutely. But yeah, at the end of the jailbreak, he ends up taking the girl as well. So I'm like, whatever. I feel like I kind of know where this is going, and I don't mean that in a good way. And so that's it. So all right, we'll go through episode 2 and we'll give a rating. This will be our new set. We're going to cover these 2 episodes at a time. There's 10, so we're going to be talking about this for a while. But that way, when we get ready to do the Mando, we don't have to try to cram it all in and kind of make it a mess. Because I was afraid we were going to get log jam because we have Mando coming up. We also want to do a preview of Mando in an upcoming episode here, which we'll do a couple of episodes down the road. All right, so I'm going to talk about Chapter 2, which is Sinister Schemes. Saul Ruiz doing the writing with Mr. I don't want to call him Mishwanowitz, so you're going to say his name again. Mishevitz, I'm going to get it. Lawson and the other officers pursue MAUL's group through the streets of generics. I'm just going to keep calling it that. Daki uses the Force to intervene in an attempt to save Devon. Now, Daki is Dennis Haysbert.
Yep.
I'm just going to call him Dennis Haysbert. But MAUL distracts him, and the TFS report police are endangering several civilians. Of course, that's what he did, allowing MAUL and his followers to escape the hideout to lower levels of generics. MAUL imprisons Vario and Devon in separate vaults. I love the vaults, and that's right, because Vario was bitching in the this jail cell's too small for me.
He's got a big one.
Now the vaults are big, but they're empty because obviously they're used for storing ore or something or other.
Yeah,
because they're in that big warehouse or wherever it is that they're at. He tells Devon that she was indoctrinated by the Jedi and must now adapt to the new state of the galaxy after the Empire destroyed the Jedi Order. Lawson struggles with being overworked and not being able to spend time with his son, Riley. Oh, he's humanizing him a little bit. That's not a bad thing.
An extra E.
Under pressure,
like that extra vowel of clones.
Yeah, right. Riley. No extra vowels. A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. Oh, God, he's got a Y. So, yeah, there you go. 2 Ys. Oh, my gosh. Under pressure from TDS, TFI, or TPS report chief Kleiss, says the woman, and the governor of Janix to resolve the matter quickly. Lawson meets with a criminal contact, Rhea Shule, who is Pamela Adlon, who I was talking about before, and her daughter is the voice of our young protagonist. For information, and she hits on him too. Did you get the feeling she was a madam?
Yeah, that's kind of that's kind of the feeling I got from her.
They don't lean into it too hard, which is good because it is a cartoon, ostensibly for kids, but whatever. For information on MAUL and the Shadow Collective, he's secretly followed by Daki. Vario provides MAUL with information on a pike transport, bringing the pikes in.
Yep.
I didn't get the feeling the pikes were like fish people, and there was the pike, but it's a Y instead of an I, like the fish that I was
kind
just catch fishing
like
with my dad.
The way
in
that
Canada.
their head was,
the fish you don't want to eat because they taste like gasoline. And I think that's what Dad always said. Transport and suggests they attack it in a way to draw out Krim. MAUL does this himself, killing the pike crew and stealing their cargo. He encourages Devon to escape from prison if she wishes to. And later she uses the Force to break out of the vault. So this is the first big reveal that she is also a Force user, I think. I don't think
it's kind of hinted at in episode 1, but this is where we get the big one. Yes, she's not just like following along. She wasn't a youngling. She was a Padawan, and she can use the Force.
Right.
So
we tilt, and again, the end, this is where my big whining and complaining kind of starts because yes, they're Order 66 survivors. I'm like, this is getting really stale, and this approach to it is not great, and I didn't care for it. I did love that we saw some Mandalorians. Yay, Mandalorians! Put them in anything. Put them in a sitcom.
They're leftovers of Death Watch.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
Which is who we saw Maul rolling with at the end of the Clone Wars when he had that.
And so
this evoked to me of Better Times, which was the end of the Clone Wars, which was Ahsoka's big storyline when Order 66 happened, which was absolutely terrific. I enjoyed the sequence in the Lawson's household that you get the Star Wars kitchen noises that came right from the Lars homestead. That was cool. That was cool. And of course, I talked about my my fondness for Pamela Adlon as the informant, which brought some decent background because they're like, well, who the hell's a Shadow Group and what's he doing and blah, blah, blah. And yes, I enjoyed seeing. Yes, the things go badly for the Pikes really quickly. The bug folk, I wrote. But my biggest rub in this, and I didn't write it down, but I was just refreshed by this, was the big Force reveal and the big swell of music. It's not. We saw that coming. It's not a big reveal. It's too. We talked about being smart with your audience, right? And I just don't feel like this was being smart with your audience. I did not really love on that so much. So that was. That was kind of a big fail for me. I think, and again, with any first episode, you're looking for, and again, I can revise up my rating because I had one I liked and one I didn't. Well, maybe not, but because the stuff that really got more annoying is in episodes 3 and 4. So yeah, I might suggest that this was not really as bad as I thought it to be. But anyway, how are you feeling about episode 2?
I thought episode 2 was fine. There wasn't tons that happened. At least it didn't feel like it because it was a lot of Maul kind of insinuating things to Devin.
Insinuating things.
Yeah, it's just like, you have been indoctrinated by Jedi. You're now stuck and you need to give in to your feelings and retouch the Force, like all these things. The classic sort of like Sith seduction to the dark side. Even though he's not officially a Sith, he's definitely still using those tools.
Very Sith adjacent.
Yeah. So I thought
he's a Sith fanboy. And a lot of years past his prime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's been replaced like time and again. And Vader's like, Vader would come up to him, tap on his shoulder. Just go home, man. Don't do this to yourself.
Yes.
Just go.
Just stop. You're done.
Just stop. Yeah. Like Michael Jordan, the famous meme. Just stop.
Yeah.
Get yourself some help. Stop.
Yeah. That's kind of where it's at.
Yeah.
So I actually enjoy Dario. I think he's funny. Vario.
Yeah.
Vario. He's funny.
Yeah, the little fella.
Yeah, he's great. I think that they're using him well as like this little mob boss under pressure. So that's kind of entertaining. The one thing that I thought was a little funky is that we're not mentioning Black Sun at all. Because they made a point of bringing them into the Clone Wars, and now it's just like we're just pretending they don't exist again.
Right. Especially when we have my beloved Shizor.
And I don't know if
that they could bring in. I mean, come on.
And I don't know if that's on purpose because they don't want to oh yeah, Shadows of the Empire is canon, by the way, which it totally can be. It doesn't contradict anything.
That is true. Yeah, it really, in the space that it happens, it's not. Yeah, it's not that messy.
So
I don't think.
I don't think it would be that messy. There might be one or two things that it might play fast and loose with, but generally speaking, it's fine. And it was like a whole official thing. But anyway, I don't know why we don't have Black Sun unless we're going to bring him back sometime later. Because I've heard
maybe maybe they're going to blow my mind and bring him back in the back half of this.
Maybe,
which I think would be crazy. So that kind of forced me to reevaluate since we're sliding back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had originally given this like a 5 out of 10. Like I was really down on the next 2 segments, which is not going to make our next episode very fun. Sorry, but I'm going to try.
Yeah,
I'm really going to try. And what's great is I've already watched them and take my notes, so I don't have to watch it again. And I wrote like, unfortunately, parts of this like a beggar who wants to be something more, which was kind of the first part, has really been done. It kind of like it was like it was kind of done better in Rebels with Ezra Bridger. Yeah. But the execution as time goes by. And this will kind of meet out as time goes. will tell us if the story is going to be different. I mean, so far it's not, and there's 10 episodes of this. We've talked about 2. And this was my line that struck me, and hopefully this will make you chuckle, but or it'll make you roll your eyes. I kind of feel like Star Wars is playing to its greatest hits, but it's a cover band playing the greatest hits. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I love Fleetwood Mac and I love Rumors, and I want to hear Don't Stop Talking About Tomorrow, but instead of seeing a great cover band, instead of seeing them, I'm seeing a okay cover band, which I've seen a pretty good cover band from Atlanta that does Fleetwood Mac. It was almost 10 years ago. I saw them down at 20 Monroe here in Grand Rapids, and they were great. This was not great. This was like break, and it's the thing that I think a lot of us are, and maybe a lot of us are happy just to switch gears to Star Trek for a second, that we're looking at, the year 1, which would have been more of Strange New Worlds characters going forward into the original series, that we're glad it's not happening, because move forward, give us new stories, new situations, new takes on them, do something different. Yeah. Of course, with Star Wars characters, they did that and people still don't like it. So I don't know. I understand that this is, maybe I'm wrong, kind of well rated online. Like, other people are really enjoying this.
It's, well, to be fair, it's not bad. It just feels a little bit of kind of retreading stuff. Like, it's not like crapping on anything or doing anything terrible. So like,
the Acolyte was bad.
Yeah, and
we dislike the Acolyte.
Yeah, and it's well written. It's got like great performance, and Sam Witwer knocks it out of the park. Like, there's really, really, really good stuff about this. It's just that right now it doesn't feel like it's anything that's new. Because it's like, here's Maul trying to find another apprentice. He did that with Ezra. This isn't new to us. Now, is it fine to tell that kind of story? Sure, but there is part of it where it's like, I want to see a different side of this character. Because if we're trying to make him more nuanced and like show more things about him, then I want us to explore Maul. And right now we're kind of pulling a to kind of roll back to what we were doing in segment 1 with Thrawn, right? How Timothy Zahn writes Thrawn is he always has another character to observe Thrawn, because you never see things from Thrawn's perspective, because it would be too difficult to try to write the interior monologue of a character who's that much smarter than the author and anyone else in the room.
Right.
So
good point.
So it kind of feels like we're kind of leaning on that tactic with Thrawn. We're leaning back on that tactic with Maul here. Like, we're bringing Devin in so that we can explore Maul, kind of like we explored Maul with Ezra. Right. Because it's like, Maul works best when he's got someone to foil with, because you had Savage and Obi-Wan, and then you had Ezra and Kanan, and so like, and to a lesser extent Ahsoka, because she popped in there a little bit, or even in the final arc of Clone Wars, where it's Maul and Ahsoka, right? So it's like Maul always has to have someone that he's in conflict with or trying to seduce to the dark side or what have you. So I think that's why they're doing this, because that's the way that they know how to use this character. But I think it would have been interesting if we tried to take a little, like, maybe a slightly different approach than just how we normally approach him. Like, it's not bad, but it's just like, maybe I was hoping for something a little bit different, and that's why I'm a little like, eh.
Yeah, and maybe that's why. And again, I dialed out episodes 3 and 4. But yeah, I want to say, I really do need them to break new ground. Yeah. And maybe, with the swirl of lacking that in Star Trek, or even when they tried to, people shut it down, which I think is a shame. I want to see Star Wars take that big jump forward. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'd love to see them jump, let them jump several hundred years in the future, you know what I mean? And start with some brand new stories.
Or if you're going to tell stories in the present, like, do something a little bit different. Like, one that I was hoping that they were going to do with the Bad Batch was the Clone Rebellion, and we didn't get that. That's the story that still has to be told. I don't think that's going to be touched on in Maul, because it has nothing to do with this story. Right.
And it wouldn't be great if they did.
It would take away. It'd be the 2 Mando episodes in the middle of Book of Boba Fett. It would have nothing to do with anything else. And it might be good in its own right, but it would have nothing to do with the story you're telling.
And another fear is, I didn't even put this in my notes, but another fear is like, where's all of this going? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we know Maul comes to a bad end, and he meets his end at the end of Obi-Wan's lightsaber, and that happens just prior to A New Hope, because we see it at the end of Rebels. So where the hell is this going? Why, how do we invest in these characters if they don't really matter in the big scheme of things? Or are they going to surprise the hell out of us in the back half? Because we've seen almost half of this now. We've seen 4 episodes and there's 10.
I mean,
how is it all going to shake out?
Maybe Devon's going to be more important. Maybe they're teeing up Devon to be a villain in a later project. Maybe that's what we're doing here. I don't know.
Right. So yeah, I could be prematurely kind of dragging this, and if that's if so I'm hoping for what they say in sports ball, a second half comeback, that maybe they're really going to do something great in episodes 5 through 10. So we'll leave it on that. So what about a rating for you? Where do you put it on 10,
I would probably put this as a 6.57. It's not like
tied up.
Maybe 7.5 at the highest. Like there's a lot of stuff that I like, but it just doesn't feel like it's doing anything super interesting. I'm not I am getting invested in those characters. Like they are interesting. They aren't one trick ponies. I do like that. But it's more of this is a setup. Let's see where we go with this. And then that's obviously going to change how I think about like these beginning episodes. That's always happens where the setup is like, I don't know. And then when you finally get the payoff, either you're like, well, that was a really good setup. Why did I not see that coming? Or like, oh man, that setup was trash. Like, so it's just, it kind of depends on where it ends up. So,
yeah. So we'll find out. All right. Well, we will jump into episodes 3 and 4 next time. That'll probably be the focus of our episode. And then as we get a little closer to Mandalorian and Grogu, as I'd mentioned, we're going to do kind of a primer for the movie. So we're going to tackle the 3 seasons of The Mandalorian. Kind of in summary, we'll talk about some of our favorite moments, some of our least favorite moments from that series, and then our hopes for the movie. And then I'm really hoping that we have a returning SFU champion to join us to talk about The Mandalorian Grogu when it does come out 1 month from now, but I won't spoil that. We're working on it. But I always like to underpromise and overdeliver. Yes. But in the meantime, and then we'll continue to talk about the show in 2-episode chunks until we're done, and then we will move forward in talking about more Star Wars. As always, we're very interested to hear from our audience. What are you guys thinking about what we're doing? I mean, we've been making this show, the two of us, for coming up on a year now. We started back last fall, maybe a bit before last fall, because that's when Mark kind of took a step back. So, and we changed the format up a little bit. We focus on content, where the show before that really focused on talking to fans and kind of their take on stuff, and then a little bit about content. But I'm a content guy. I'd like to talk about episodes and movies and stuff. So I'm curious what people think. So as always, we're going to give you some contact information. Drop us a line in any way, shape, or form. We're interested in what you think. But Peter, where do people find you out there if they want to talk about any of this stuff?
All right. If you want to find me around the interwebs, I am at Petrus Aquinas on most social media. I'm not terribly active, but if you poke at me, I might say something, especially if you're like, hey, I want to talk about Thrawn. I will more than happily talk about Thrawn. So you can find me there. You can find me on our Discord. You can also find me over on ELH's Twitch and YouTube and Discord, where we do Star Trek Adventures role-playing games. And you can also find me behind the scenes on Starship Excelsior.
I love it. And you can find both Secret Friends Unite and myself personally on basically all the socials, except for X. Secret Friends Unite is Secret Friends Unite. Just type it in wherever you go. And I am at the C3, TheCeeThree. I've also gotten back in a regular cadence with doing my little kitchen chats, which are now in my dining room, because my dining room is the chair's more comfortable. But I do little 3-minute chats about stuff that I'm enjoying and whatever it is. And you can find that not only on our YouTube channel, but on all of my socials and the SFU socials as well. So we would love to see you there. But with that is our show. We will catch you next time. Oh, of course, the secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. Let us know what you're thinking about our show or anything. Again, we do produce other shows. We have a great show about Star Trek, of course. We do great celebrity and creator interviews. We'd love to hear you about that. We're here, obviously, talking about Star Wars. And then we have a great topic-based show, which covers kind of everything else in social media, called Secret Friends Unite. Oops, all Thunderdome. We'd love to hear from you. however it is you choose to find us. But with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. Thank you as always for joining us. I'm going to tell you sharing is caring and to keep on trucking.
May the force be with you.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.